The blockbuster proceeding captivated the country, and the controversial outcome, cleared on all charges, divided it. No, not Trump and the Mueller investigation, nor Jussie Smollett and the hate crime hoax either. Lizzie Borden, whose father and stepmother were brutally hacked to death in Fall River in 1892. When Lizzie was arrested and named the main suspect, the case drew national attention, and in the years since, that attention has not let up, with the Borden story at the center of dozens of books, movies, even a nursery rhyme. Say it with me. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks, and when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Cara Robertson is the author of the new book. It's called The Trial of Lizzie Borden, based on court transcripts, 20 years of research, and recently unearthed letters from Lizzie herself. She's also a lawyer, former legal advisor to an international criminal tribunal in The Hague, and she joins me now. Your book's great. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You destroy all the myths, including the 81 whacks. How many were there? I know it was brutal, but there weren't 81, right?
19 for the stepmother and 10 for Mr. Borden.
Why was this such an obsession, not just in Fall River, Massachusetts, everywhere? Why was this such a big case in 1892?
Well, the brutality of the crimes would have been enough to generate headlines, but when it turned out that Lizzie Borden was accused, then that made it international news. The idea that somebody who ticked all the boxes of respectable femininity, she'd been a church Sunday school teacher, and the secretary-treasurer of her local Christian Endeavor Society, all those things made it seem inconceivable that somebody like that would pick up a hatchet or an axe and kill her father. Even
though you say someone like that, one of my favorite lines in your book is you describe her as a woman at a particular time relegated to unproductive marginality. One of the finest lines I've read in a long time. But it has stayed big for 100 and whatever that is, 27 years. When I mentioned to friends you're going to be on, they say, oh, great, I really want to. Why are people, is it because she was acquitted and they think she did? I mean, what's the rationale, do you think?
Yeah, I think that the fact that she's acquitted leaves it more of an open story, so that it's possible to imagine other suspects. But I think there's something about the Borden case that turns everybody into a bit of an amateur detective, that it's a bit of a locked room mystery, that people have to be in a certain place at a certain time. And so there's a lot of, it offers those pleasures. And then it has a mythic quality, too.
Meaning?
Well, stripped of its particularity, stripped out of its time and place, it's the story of an extremely unhappy family. And so it takes on almost the air of a Sophocles story.
Did she really say, oh, Mrs. Churchill, do come over, someone has killed father? Is that true?
Yes,
oh,
that's true.
God, talk about the times. And there are no witnesses, right?
That's right.
And there are scenes that are so dramatic. I hope I get this right, but there's the moment when the prosecuting attorney puts a bag or something, or takes things out of a bag for the jury, and it's the two skulls of the stepmother and the father?
That's right, and Lizzie Borden promptly faints.
A real faint, or
yeah,
we don't know enough?
Well, of course, we never know how much of this is performance, but it seems like a real faint.
You know, a year or so ago, I had Dean Strang and Jerry Buting here from Making a Murderer, and this is a little Making a Murderer-esque. The only difference is it's clear which side they're on. You don't take a position. Why?
Well, I think that inevitably people who are trying to solve it as a mystery emphasize certain parts of the evidence and downplay other parts, and I think that always ends up leaving the reader feel cheated.
Do you have a personal opinion that you chose not to share in your book? You do, right?
Well, only that it's hard to imagine how anyone else could have done it.
But there was no blood on. I mean, there's so many exculpatory kinds of things.
Certainly, as a practical matter, it's very difficult to imagine how she did it too. So, I'm content to leave it as a mystery.
What's the one fact you unearthed in your endless amount of research that just knocked you over? Is there one?
Well, I think the fact that she tried to buy prussic acid
the day before
the
right?
murders is
yeah, that's not
telling.
A circumstantial telling thing, too.
Yeah.
Is it not? And what was the explanation of that?
Her explanation was that she wanted it to clean a sealskin cape. And, the prosecution really wanted to bring this in to show intent and to explain how how someone like her would have, might have come to use an axe if she couldn't get poison.
By the way, it was not Paul Manafort's sealskin cape. We should be clear here. How about life after? She's acquitted. What was the rest of Lizzie Borden's life like?
Well, to a certain extent, she has the life that she supposedly always wanted. She moves to a much grander house in the elite residential district, but she finds herself frozen out by the people she most wished to know, and so she lives a life that's quite isolated.
What does it feel like to have been there, to touch the letter? What is that like, the tactile experience in your research?
I think it just gives you a much better sense of what it was like to actually live in that period, to have a sense of the constraints and the formality.
It's a great book. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Cara. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. The book again is The Trial of Lizzie Borden.